All right, back out here in the garage. May 1st, I got my homemade jack stands, adjustable jack stand, bolted on this side. I've got the bottle jack up into the tube support bolted to the bottom of the engine, there in the center. Jack stand is in on this side. Bolts are out. As you can see, I've already started rolling away. So I'm going to put you over here on a tripod. Try to. Hold on. There you go. All right. So let's see if it'll roll away from there. Get your back kind of on in the picture there. Alrighty, shove this thing. Oh yeah, boy, I easily could have just picked that up. Dropped it. Anyway, look at that. Just like that, the 302 Super had done lost her steering. So, while I was working on it tonight, I did go ahead and finish, had to unhook these power steer lines from these hoses, been dripping into the pan. I thought I was gonna have to take the gas tank out, and then I realized, well, I'm not splitting it, I'm just taking the front end off, because let's get this bracket that goes up here with the gas tanks on. I don't have to take it loose. I thought, oh, I got to take all the wires off the starter too, so I took all that loose, and then realized, wait a minute, starter's staying with the engine, which is staying with the rear end. I don't have to take all that loose, but I went ahead and pulled the wires anyway, just because, and I may go ahead and pull the starter out too, just because since I've got the custom match, custom blended, whatever, spray bomb, the Dyna Brown, I may go ahead and pull the starter out just so I can get all of the side of the engine cleaned up nice. We'll go ahead and degrease it, whatever. Try to figure out why we got a zip tie around that. That's not normal. Anyway, try and get that figured out. We'll get all this cleaned up, as good as we can. Try and get a coat of paint on it so it looks somewhat decent. Doesn't have to be perfect, but the side plate, I think I already talked about in an earlier video, had like no paint or hardly any paint left on it. The valve cover was kind of the same. Well, the valve cover, I'm not sure, because it's full of valve train parts. But I know the blocks and heads are going to be bare when they come back from the machine shop. So we'll paint all this up. We'll probably we may go ahead and maybe try to clean the top of the frame rails, because those are supposed to be the Dyna Brown as well. Everything on that's supposed to be brown. We'll probably go ahead and brown it up again. Then we'll buff the frame rails. I think I buffed that a little bit by hand right there, so some of the color does come back. But we'll try and buff it out as good as we can. Doesn't have to be perfect, but if we can shine it up a little bit, that'd be better than nothing. But anyway, yeah. So my my split and stand deal kind of worked. They're not lined up even across from one another, obviously. That's clear at the front of the holes. I'll bet that's the back of the holes. Toward the back of the holes. Anyway, not a big deal. But main reason for doing all this, it's you'd think I'd go ahead and take that one last wire off and get that thing out of the way. Get that out of the way. Get these out of the way. I got to get this bolt out, get this double pulley off, 4 bolts to get this cover off, so we can replace the governor assembly that's in behind there. Talked to several people. The way it acts, we definitely all kind of agree that it is worn out. So we're going to get that cleaned up while I get it apart. The fun thing is going to be, now that I got this setting up here, I'm going to have to figure out how to rearrange all of this stuff basically from about, well, that gray tote this way, back in around this thing, so that Mama Jeep can go back in the garage. It'd be a lot easier if I had all my GTB diesel heads, manifolds, bucket of parts gone. If I had my oil pump thing for filtering my oil going. Well, since I got some room now, I may try and clean up this corner here and all this inches of floor dry from oil leaks from my barrel. Get all that cleaned up, and then maybe try to rebuild my bucket system for my filters. I'm thinking about maybe trying to get a tote or something that's a little sturdier and build a stand to hang because the blue filter will hang, so I can build me some kind of a something that it'll hang on. If I have to build something it'll hang on, and then put some kind of oil catch tray under it, so if and when I have to change filters or I have a leak, whatever, I can catch that oil. But I may try to do that and get this mess back here cleaned up, just for funsies. But anyway, there we are, 302. The front end is off, and it surprisingly, once I got the biggest hang up was these bottom bolts, trying to get the rails up and down right, so there wasn't any, and lined up so there wasn't any pressure on those bolts. Once I got that, it just slid right apart. Just as easy as you watch me roll it up there. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'll keep after it, and we will see what we can do to get that done and get this cleaned up and get some paint on it. And I'm not sure how I'm going to degrease it without getting a lot of degreaser inside the motor. I may have to put the side plate back on, put just a thin bead of silicone on it, stick it on there with a few bolts just to hold it on, so I can spray some degreaser on there and scrub and whatever. But definitely want to try and get the engine area cleaned up and painted so it looks a little better, and we don't have bare metal rusting. That's the plan anyway. And then obviously fix the governor, because that's the big deal. And then when we get the valves out of Ohio to the machine shop back here in Indiana, get the heads back together and get the heads and blocks back, and then we can start getting the pistons cleaned up better, getting the new rings and rod bearings on them. Even if I just had the blocks, I'd get rings and rod bearings and get that part of it stuck back together. Yeah. So yeah, if I had the blocks back, I could get rings, rod bearings. That's not a bad idea. Get the blocks back, get rings and rod bearings on those, and just go ahead and put the blocks back on. Then all I gotta do is seal the top, put the gaskets down, seal the top of the block, clean that up real good. Put the once the block or rods are back on with new bearings, I can seal that bearing back down and put that back together, and then we can hose it down with degreaser and do what we got to do to clean up the side of the engine. That sounds like a good idea. I may have to see about getting the blocks back, getting them back, and getting a hone down through them, and rings and bearings, and yeah. So anyway, that's where I'm at. May 1st, 2022, U302 Super project. I'll be back.